Hi, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Kitchen Conversations. I am excited about this episode because I get to sit down and talk to one of my favorite pickleball players and a buddy of mine, Ken Pecarski. Ken and I first met in Kingston at the Kingston Pickleball Club during a True North team event challenge. And the moment I saw Ken, I thought to myself, does that guy ever look like Will Ferrell? We'll talk about that moment, how we connected, and his thoughts on coaching, the game, and the importance of keeping it fun. Ken has a saying called hit and giggle, and you'll learn what he means by that in today's episode of Kitchen Conversations. Well, Ken, welcome to Kitchen Conversations. Welcome to my podcast, my friend, and thank you for being here. I've been both anxious and excited about today, and excited because anytime I get a chance to chat with you, it's a pleasure. Anxious and somewhat apprehensive, though, because this could come off the rails at any second. You put the two of us on a pickleball court or a podcast, and it could literally go anywhere. So anyway, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for doing this.
No problem. I appreciate you asking me to be part of this.
Yeah, well, it's been fun. A little idea I kicked off in January, and I've been kind of toiling away at it and having a bit of fun. And yeah, it's been really interesting. But I said to my wife today, I'm excited to sit and chat with you. And she was asking me if I remember kind of how you and I had connected, and I'll never forget that moment. It was at a True North pickleball tournament event, a team event in Kingston at the Kingston Pickleball Club. And when I first sort of saw you across the court, I thought, boy, that guy has a slight resemblance to that actor, Will Ferrell. So I sauntered on over and said, hey, I'm Mike. And
Well, you were the second guy that has ever said that. And then after you said it,
really,
I've probably heard it
yeah.
50 more times.
See, I started a trend.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I started something with it. I love it. But the reason I was intrigued by that is because I had a situation on a cruise ship several years ago where I was up early. I'm a super early morning guy. I love getting up early and tracking down coffee, especially on vacation. And I'm wandering through the cruise ship one morning, and there's not a lot of people, but I see this other guy coming, and he's heading towards me, and he's looking at me in a way that it's not just going to be a good morning.
Exactly.
There's more coming than just hi, how are you? So he kind of stops and he says to me, I hate to bother you, but I've got to tell you, I just loved you in that movie. And of course, this is too good for me to let go. So I say, "Oh yeah, which movie are you thinking about?" And he goes, "Well, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, of course." So I'm a little miffed because I know it's not, I know it's not Ferris he thinks I look like. So back to the room I go, and on the computer, and sure enough, it's Alan Ruck's character, the kid that was in the Detroit Red Wings hockey jersey, and I don't want to look a thing like him. So that was not a good day for me. I thought, this guy actually thinks I look like that. I didn't want any part of that. But so anyhow, I think you came up on the far better end of the stick on that one. If people think you resemble Will Ferrell, I'd take that any day over at least how Alan Ruck appeared in that movie. But yeah, we made that connection, had a bit of a chat. And then the other part of that day that I'll never forget, and this, at the risk of embarrassing you, is what I love so much about you. It's your spirit and your character. And you've been such a great ambassador for the game of pickleball and an advocate for the game. And, you asked me to come out on the court with you and a couple other 4-0s, maybe 4-5s, to kind of just play a game in between, matches. I think it might've been the lunch hour, and we had a couple of free courts. So, you dragged me out there with you. I had no business being out there as a 3-0 player at that point in my life, but what a game and what an experience for me to be able to step on the court with you and those other players. And my recollection of that is we actually came out on top of that game. Somehow you and I scrapped together a little bit of a win in that moment. And I think I enjoyed that more than I enjoyed the whole tournament.
It was fun.
It was really fun.
And I actually picked you because I needed to look better than at least one of the players on the court. So
Well, problem solved. Yeah, you can always count on me to be that guy. Yeah, if you want to be the best looking guy in a room, take me with you. That's a guarantee. So yeah, so listen, on a serious note, you and I have known each other for a bit. We don't get to see each other much, but we do connect every so often through text.
True.
And sharing some pictures, which of course are going to become part of this podcast at the edit point. So you're not going to escape.
Be interesting.
Yeah, you're not going to escape those. But it's the game of pickleball, Ken. Without it, we don't know each other.
100%.
It's what I love about the game. Yeah, I just love the game and the people that we get to meet through it. So, and if you don't mind, I like to break things down in the podcast into what I call 3 separate rallies. And in rally number 1, I'd love to hear a bit about your sports background, maybe some of the other sports that you played, coming up through high school, and kind of what led you to where you are today. I'd love to hear that story. And then I'd love to jump into rally 2 and talk about this crazy game of pickleball and what it is that you and I and so many people around the world are falling in love with. And then in Rally 3, I'd love to chat a bit about your coaching background, what you're currently doing with Tailored Pickleball Academy, and maybe, Ken, if you don't mind, a bit of your coaching philosophy. And so we can maybe wrap the conversation up in Rally 3 with that kind of chat, if you don't mind.
My sports background, I was never great at anything, but I was always, and not to toot my own horn, but I was good at everything. Not great at one thing, but either by mimicking or just some kind of, I've got a little bit of athletic ability. So I played hockey for the longest time, probably, high recreational hockey, let's call it, until my late 40s. And then, of course, the 20-year-olds would join the league who still thought there was NHL scouts. Yeah. Well, not so much that, but, you'd go behind the net. I was a defenseman. So you go behind the net, and I got this 250-pound 20-year-old just putting me up against the boards. And I do the Charlie Brown crumple. And I get up and I go, buddy, I got to go to work tomorrow. Anyway,
Easy,
easy.
easy.
But
Yeah.
the sport that I
God.
really fell in love with, which is how I'm going to get into the pickleball, was racquetball. I played almost 30 years. I'm going to say competitive because you can play recreational anything, but you can play competitive. I was an above average racquetball player, and I just fell in love with that game. Then I kind of picked up a small injury in my ankle where the doctor basically said that's stopping and starting and diving and all that. You might want to do something different. So, believe it or not, I got into marathon cycling, and I entered a few races, some as long as 200K. Yeah, so I did that for a while, and just continued to. My biggest, well, my lovely bride now says, like, you just take one thing and you just go go go. Why don't you just, yeah? And I go, well, that's my personality. I try and get to the level of where I can be as best as I can be, and I know I'm now there in pickleball. The only way I'm going to get better in pickleball is to get younger, and nobody's given me that formula yet. So I'm quite happy at the level that I am at in pickleball now. But the funny story on how I got into pickleball was in 2019, so just before COVID hit, we had moved from Oakville up to a little town outside of Aurelia. So I'm in the neighborhood and I'm walking my dogs and I meet this lady and we're chit chatting, welcome to the neighborhood. What's your dog's name? Blah, 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 blah. And all of a sudden she does one of these. She goes, I'm not being rude, but I got to go play pickleball. And I'm going, what the frig is pickleball? So I get home and I say to my lovely bride, can you just look up pickleball? And so the first video, and I, like, hand to God, the first video that comes up are four 90-year-old gentlemen. And it's like plink, plink, plink. And I'm going, no, not for me,
No,
not
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 mine.
my
Not
cup
my
of
game.
tea. So unbeknownst to me, uh, my lovely bride, who I shall name now, Donna, signs me up unbeknownst to me. Seniors learn to play at the community center. So I said, okay, I'll go. And it was funny that I think there was about 16 of us. And of course, the first question is who's played pickleball? And no, who's got some paddle or racket? I put my hand up. And so he said, okay, you ate over there. And I was like, with, all the ladies, which I have no problem with. And then there was, I guess they had played a couple of games. But honestly, Mike, within 15 minutes, I knew there was different levels of the way you could play this game depending upon what your interests were. I like to call, even when I teach beginners now, I like to call it, you can be a hit and giggle player. Hit the ball, get it over 10 times in a row, and you all jump up and down, you're happy, and then you all go out for a glass of wine. And then you've got your, semi competitive, and then you've got your, the ones that pick this game up and just take it and just work at it.
I think, it's funny, Ken, when you talk about sports as well. Like, I didn't do a lot of sports as a kid. I had a bit of a weight problem. Grade eight, I wore, this will shock you, a pair of 44-inch Husky
Wow.
jeans to grade eight. I weighed 220 pounds. I was 5 foot nothing. I'm 6'2" now and about 160 pounds soaking wet. So, I went through it all. I changed, but I'll tell you, I just didn't get a chance as a kid to play a lot of sports. And so, pickleball, like many things that I started doing later in life when I'd lost the weight and had a little confidence and built up a little bit of, enthusiasm for wanting to get out there and do that sort of thing. I always say it's forced. Everything I do in sport, whether it's golf, whether it was a little bit of pickup hockey, and now the game I love so much in pickleball, it's really a grind for me to get there. I have to really, really work at it. So interesting to hear your story, how you kind of got into the game. And, but that video, I mean, that good on you for at least good on her, good on Donna for signing you up. Cause without that, we're probably not talking today. So I'll thank her later. But yeah, good on her for having the courage to say, you're going to pickleball to
Yeah.
give it a try. And good on you for agreeing to
Well,
do
she
that.
knew
So
that. So
yeah,
she knew that I have to be doing something. And what her biggest fear was that I would start working again. And I'm that type of personality that when I work, I overdo it. And her when actually because when we actually moved to Aurelia, she said, "You are not telling anybody what you did as a job, because I do not need you working on people's houses. I don't need you building fences. I don't need you building decks. Uh, you know, but you have to do something." So yeah, good on her, because and it's funny because she only recently retired 2 years ago this July, and she's now a pickleball fanatic. She's taken the game up, and so it's now something that we have friends in common. We have something that I'll jump on the court with her and her friends and have just as much fun as if the odd time I get to jump on courts with people that are like literally 5.0s. I'm not naive enough to say that they're trying their hardest, but at least I'm not embarrassing
sure.
myself.
Yeah, 100%. And look at the fun you must have had moving to that small town. Donna says, "Don't tell anybody what you did." In fact, Ken, let's tell them we're in the witness protection program. And
Oh,
that's
I've
all we
used
can
that
tell
line
them,
a
right?
few
We're just
times.
imagine the fun we
Yes.
can have. Yeah, it takes me back to that encounter on the cruise ship that morning and of course that story got better as the week went on, because as Buddy was coming along with his wife all week, he would kind of look at me and give me the old, hey, hey. I never told him. I went along with it, even though I wasn't happy with who he thought I looked like. I just
Yeah,
let it ride the whole week. My wife says you got to tell him. I said I'm not telling
that's
him
funny.
anything. He wants to think I'm a movie guy. All the power to him. So we're kind of in Rally 2 now. We kind of segued into that, which is great. But tell me kind of where pickleball sits for you today as a player. We'll leave the coaching aside for a couple minutes. We'll get to that in a second. But tell me a bit about you as a player, and are you doing singles, doubles, tournament play? Do you still do some social stuff? When you're not coaching and you're just out to have fun with your guys and your buddies and your wife and their friends, where do you plug into the game?
Well, I plug into the game where if it doesn't matter what level, and I'm fortunate enough that sometimes I get asked at a higher level, but it's interesting that I've had a few comments. I'll have beginners. I'll be walking by a court and they'll go, will you play with us? We're short. And I will. Whereas, and I don't want to say it's a wrong thing for the people that don't want to do it, but I mean, people will walk by and go, "Why are you playing with them?" And I go, "Because they asked me to." You know, if I put myself into the day that I was a pure beginner, and there's a gentleman, I'm going to name him by the name of Akos Tozer. A lot of people know Tozer, And I remember when I was first starting a 2-court facility at a hockey rink, they put 2 courts on a parquet floor in the meeting rooms, right? Where they shuffleboard or bridge or cribbage or whatever. And the courts actually, the two baselines were angled so that literally during a couple of rallies, you could be just about to hit the person on the other court. Neither here nor there with that story. But Akos Tozer was one of those guys that when I first met him, I don't want to use numbers. I'm not a big fan of 3.0, 3.5, 4.0, but he was a higher level player. And I remember, I think it was like a Wednesday evening, the higher level players played. And I came up to him one day and I just said, "Can I come out and watch you guys play?" He said, "Never mind watching, bring your stuff." And that right there, I said, I want to be that welcoming to other players. And it was funny because to kind of segue backwards, when I first started playing true beginner pickleball, there was a gentleman that was kind of running this thing, and it was funny because at the time they only had pickleball 2 days a week, Wednesdays and Fridays, and like literally, I'm just shaking on Monday and Tuesday, going Wednesday I'm going to play pickleball. But anyway,
I get to go.
so they would have the beginner session from 10 to 12, and then they had the intermediate session from 12 to 2. And the first, I guess I was playing for about maybe a month. And I said and I actually asked him yesterday if I could use his name on air. So, Robin Eddington, I went up to him. I said, "Robin, do you think I could play in the next session?" And he looked at me and he said, "Not unless you want your fire trucking bleep 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 handed to you." So I said, "Okay."
Wow.
I went to the front. I
All
went to
right.
the front desk. I paid my $5 because he couldn't say no, you can't. Right? He did. He did not.
Right.
And
Right.
again, coincidentally, the first match that we got matched up in the little play was against him, and
Of course.
we came out on the winning end, and it took everything for me to bite the inside of my cheek to kind of
Uh-huh.
give that back to him. And now he is the director of pickleball at the club where I am, in quotation marks, the club pro. And we tell that story a lot of times and we laugh about that. But we've become the best of friends, kind of like me and you, except I see him weekly and I talk to you monthly, maybe. But yeah, so just again, it was that one guy just saying, "Get out here," you know. And so when the people come to me, I go, "Yeah, I'll play, no problem."
Absolutely, Ken. I'm so glad you went there today. I was going to try to draw you into that conversation because I'm aware of your commitment to that. And we've spoken about it kind of casually in the past. So I was definitely hoping to get there. And thank you for doing that for me. But, if I have a pickleball pain point, that would be it. It would be that as players level up through this wonderful game, that they sometimes forget that they too met a lady walking their dog one day who said, "Come try pickleball." They had their first game. They whiffed their first ball. They lost 11-0. They won 11-0. I mean, we've all been through that. It's a process and it's unavoidable. And yes, some of us perhaps with a stronger racket background move up the skill set quicker. We climb that ladder a bit quicker, but it really bothers me. And it's a point of content. I just don't like it when I see better players. And I'm with you on not labeling 3-0s, 3-5, so on and so forth. But we've got to remember, Ken, if we're going to grow the sport and the integrity of it and the legacy of it, and we have a role to play in that as players, we've got to remember that we were that player one day. And I mentioned right out of the gate the thrill that I had that day at the True North event, the team event, when there's Mowgli, when you brought me into that game, and you allowed me to come in on that court and invited me with open arms. And yeah, I wish more players would do what you do. I really do. And I applaud you for doing that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for me again, it's just that's my passion about the game is when people or students say, in this game because of you. And it's funny, there's a group of ladies at my home club. I play out of Pickleplex in Barrie. Shout out to Pickleplex in Barrie. There's a group of about 7 ladies that they were in my learn to play classes maybe 2 years ago. And every time I see them, they just shake their fist at me and go, "It's you that got us addicted to this game." And I go, "It's all my fault." And I just laugh and say, "Hey, that's a compliment, you know?" So it is funny because my opening line whenever I teach learn to play is always, "Welcome to the first day of the addiction for the rest of your life." And they all like kind of like, what? And then like 4 weeks later, they're going, "What kind of paddle should I have? Like what shoes should I be buying? Where can I get into leagues? Where can I do this?" And I'm going, "Okay, you're hooked." So, yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, listen, that's all terrific stuff. I love all of that. Let's wrap up Rally 2. Just give me a bit more info and go a little deeper on what you're doing today as far as a player. You do a lot of tournaments. I know you participate in a lot of different tournaments. Where do you kind of plug into the game today, Ken, in that respect?
Legitimately right now I plug myself in as a above average, advanced, maybe recreational player. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with a knee issue, which tournaments, because of the gap between games, my knee basically says, "Okay, you can play the first game, but if you're going to wait 30 minutes or 25 minutes, and sometimes even longer, depending on how many entries are in a tournament, then my knee basically just says, you did not do your half-hour warm-up. Your drugs are wearing off." And it's not an excuse, but it definitely does hamper me. So for me, just to play privately and set up games both lower levels, because I don't care personally, I don't care what level you are and what level your opponents are. If you are the best player on the court, you can still work on stuff and try and then bring that into your own level. The ones that, especially in organized events where they've got that range of people self-rating themselves, some higher, some lower, and whether you're male or female, and you get two people on the other side of the net looking, "Oh, these guys are way below us, let's just crush them 11-0 and get out of here,"
Yeah.
versus, "Hey, why don't we keep these guys alive in the rally and see
Yeah.
what we
Right.
can work on our second shot, our third shot, our fourth shot." It's funny because every once in a while I will play with my lovely bride, her girlfriends, and some of their husbands, and not that I'm that much better, but I'm enough that I can move the ball around. And they look at me and go, "Why didn't you finish that rally?" I go, "Because I'm having too much fun watching you guys run back and
I
forth."
That's right. I don't want it to
So,
end. I'm
yeah,
having it's all about
yeah.
me at this point. I'm enjoying myself.
So I did until my knee has only really been an issue for the last couple of years. So yeah, I was big into like I followed the tournaments all over the place. I did compete in the U.S. Open once. That was an experience. Just to watch and then be on, not playing on center court, but uh, walking into center court and watching the pros play and looking at my partner at the time going, "We thought we played pickleball. That is a
Yeah.
different game altogether." So right now, my biggest, I think,
Yeah.
um let's see how I want to say this. My biggest pet peeve is being on a court with someone that wants to either crush their opponent or just
Yeah.
makes their partner feel uneasy. I just love playing the game, whether it's mixed doubles, men's doubles. Yeah, I just love the game. I do not play singles. I personally think that singles is a young person's game. Now, mind you, they're trying it out in 3 tournaments down in the States with the new sidelines for singles court. If they ever did bring in, I guess mini singles is the technical name for it now. If they ever brought that in as an event, I would probably do that because that's more strategy, more finesse than just, lack of a better word, playing tennis with a pickleball on a pickleball court. But yeah, so basically just on a court 5 6 days a week, either teaching or playing recreational. Other than, I shout out to Kingston and that team challenge, I never miss one of those because that is all about fun. The amount of people that I have made really good friends there. I keep in touch with them, but I love that event so much.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's so well run. It's so well done. And for anyone that has not done that event, they need to. I mean, if you can find a way to get in, because it fills up in a hurry, but it's a different way of enjoying the game, and it brings everybody together, and you're kind of rallying around one another. And the 3 O's are,
Oh,
because they do rank
100%.
people in that particular term, everybody's encouraging everybody that weekend. It's just terrific. So you've made some incredible points there, and thank you. I knew you would. I knew this would be a great conversation. And I love what you're saying about the game, Ken, and about those players that just don't seem to get the fact that you can find some value and some benefit no matter what the skill levels are on this side of the net versus that side of the net. And it drew me back to, I thought about something as you were talking, and it was a piece of advice that was given to me probably within the first 4 or 5 months of playing the game. One of the more seasoned players here at the club in Kingston said, Mike, I'll tell you something. Nobody likes winning 11-0 and nobody likes losing 11-0. And the message in that was, direct but indirect. And what this person was basically saying is if you find yourself in a situation where you are losing 11-0, trust me, it's not good, but it's almost worse to be winning 11-0, Ken, because,
Yeah.
you can control that a little bit. If you're the person that's, able to let that rally go a little longer, maybe work on that third shot drop, try to work on a reset. And I thought it was sound advice, and it's something that has stuck with me to this day. So, to hear you kind of echo that, it's kind of refreshing. I
Oh,
appreciate
100%. And I've been on the other side of that 10-0. And when they're about to serve, I just remind them, you have to still win by 2.
Right. Just so
Just
you
so you
know.
know. And they look at me as if I've got
Yeah.
2 heads. I go, I'm not giving up.
Yeah. No, no. My favorite line is 4-4-1. We're winning. Yeah, it's four. What do you mean it's 4-4? I said, don't worry, we're about to win. So yeah, it's such a great game. But Ken, listen, like anything in life, we will eventually run into the odd person. And I'd like to think in pickleball, it is the odd person. It just doesn't seem to quite get that. And we just have to manage that. I mean, it's the way the world is. And you encounter certain people at certain times in your journey through pickleball that you kind of sit there and shake your head. And it really is, at that point, targeting the less experienced players, generally how that game goes. They recognize that, me or my partner or, one of us are the weaker of the two players. And so in a social play, they're just throwing everything that
Yes.
way. And I'm like, how much fun are you really having across the net? It's Tuesday morning. It's 9:15. Like the only ball I've hit is my
Yeah.
serve.
No,
Or, it makes no sense
no,
to
and
me.
I get that. And the key there, what you just said, Mike, is recreational ball versus tournament play. And I get it. In tournament play, you have to figure out, where the weaknesses are, because, you've paid your money to enter a tournament. You want the shiny medal or the beer mug or the coffee cup. But in recreational play is the, again, it, I like to tell my students recreational play is a great opportunity to get better at the game, right? Um, when you're playing tournaments, you're not actually trying to get better. You're super concentrating on trying to win. And I get that. So if you have to hit to what we deem the weakest player, whether it's same gender or mixed doubles. And hey, I learned my lesson in one of my very first tournaments when when we started hitting to the female player, And after about 4 rallies, I just looked at my mixed doubles partner and said, "She's not seeing another ball. Hit it to him." So
Right, right. She is not. She's the problem
yeah.
now.
So
We leave her
I
alone.
hate
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stereotype that, but that's in a lot of
I
cases,
know. I hear
mixed
you.
doubles. That's how it does
Yeah.
get stereotyped. And I literally just learned it in 4 rallies. Going, there is no way she is seeing another ball. But anyway.
Yeah, but we could talk, Ken, all afternoon about what it is about the game that's so appealing, and that is one of the aspects of the game that is so appealing. It's an equalizer. It doesn't matter high, short, tall. Physicality doesn't necessarily play into it. I mean, I've come up against some people in gameplay where I've looked across the net and maybe that person definitely kind of maybe needs a hip because you can tell, and that doesn't matter. It just it doesn't matter. The game has a way, if you're strategic and you're thinking your way through your rallies. I mean, it can be a great equalizer. I love that about the game.
I
Just love
like
it.
to say in this
Yeah,
game, it is the one game where you can use the phrase, "You cannot judge a book by its cover,"
by
right?
its cover,
Because
absolutely.
I've looked at opponents that are younger than me and much better fitness, but have no strategic or strategy to their game. And then I've looked at some that I go, "Oh, we just have to hit," and all of a sudden I'm just picking up the ball, going, "Nice, nice rally, guys, nice rally." Yeah.
Yeah, nice meeting you. What happened? See you on the podium. Yeah, enjoy your ride to the
Exactly.
podium. Yeah,
Too
absolutely.
funny.
Well, listen, that's all great. Obviously, Ken, you love the game, and I love the game, and the people listening to this podcast, I'm going to assume, love the game. And if they don't, I'd like to encourage them to try it and become addicted and love the game because it will change your life. This is a game that can be a life changer on the social
Oh,
side. It really does,
100%. Uh, you,
is a game
you
changer.
know,
So,
if I use a number, if I again, if I've played 100 serious matches, like tournament wise, I'm gonna say I might have run into Mr. and Mrs. Grumpy Pants maybe twice.
yeah, no, I just love it. Well, that's great. Well, listen, let's jump into rally 3. I'm watching the clock. I don't want to steal your entire long weekend. I'll take a bit of it, but tell me about where you are with coaching today. Where does that fit into your life, and how long have you been working with the Tailored Pickleball Academy? And tell me a bit about that story, and then let's get into a little bit of your coaching. You've touched briefly on it, some of the
Hmm.
philosophy that you bring to the beginners classes, but I'd love to just get your sense of coaching and the important role that it plays in getting people off on the right foot in this game that we love so much.
Well, basically, so in 20, I want to say 2021, I had a lady approach me asking me if I wanted to play in a tournament. And I said, sure, I'd love to play in a tournament. She says, but we're going to go take a lesson first. And I went, okay, I can do that. So we ended up taking a lesson from a gentleman by the name of Cam Taylor, Tailored Pickleball. And at the time, Tailored Pickleball was just a one-man operation. And myself and her, we worked with Cam, I'm going to say probably for about 4 months. We were taking lessons on a regular basis. And actually, myself and her, we quit playing the game for about 4 months, but we drilled every day for about 2 hours because I had access. The gentleman that I talked about telling me I was not going to be a good pickleball player. I he actually, him and his daughter at the time was the general manager of the facility, just opened up the club to us. And we drilled literally every day for 3 to 4 months, sometimes up to 4 hours. And we would just work on one shot so that, by the time that came into our play, we had the muscle memory. Sidebar to that, we entered our first tournament in Ottawa and we came second. And again, but that was more about, I think I had my partner laughing so hard she couldn't play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a strategy. I don't think there's a rule
No,
against it. Yeah, humor is
no,
allowed. Humor is
but
allowed.
yeah.
So,
So then I I progressed my game to where I was, an average player, but I understood the nuances of the game. And I should just backtrack is for a year and a half in Bell Canada, I was an instructor on teaching installers how to install telephone systems. So I had a bit of an instructor type personality. So the Aurelia Pickle or Odas Pickleball Club in Aurelia, he approached me and said, "Would you mind teaching beginners?" And I said, "I'm not a teacher, but I can try." And we probably ran 150 people through in the first couple of months, just getting them, but they all walked away saying they were having fun. And that's I had to make the game fun for them. Some of it through physicality and some of it through my chitter chatter. And then once I started playing, I decided to take more lessons. And one day, Cam just said, "You know, you've got that type of personality, and you are good enough that if you go get your certification to teach, I'll give you a job." And I I did, and for I'm going to say the first couple of years that I was with them, there was just basically four of us, and we went everywhere. East Coast trips, Sudbury one day, down to London the next day. Loved it because sure the travel was hard, the hours were a little bit difficult sometimes, but the people were so appreciative. You know, when you, and again, toot my own horn, at the end of a 1.5 hour learn to play, and they stand up and they give you an applause. That was better than the pay. Don't tell Cam because I still want to get
No,
paid. No.
no, won't say a word.
But yeah, so it just progressed to there. So um, first and foremost, my teaching philosophy is if you're not having fun, this game is not for you. If you're throwing your paddle after a rally, or you're kicking the ball, it's because this is a game that, other than playing singles, is there's four people on the court, and a bad attitude can ruin the game for the other three people. So my again, if I always say in a tournament, my goal is to make every team on the other side chuckle once. Then I've done my job. And if I can play some good ball in between, I'm a happy camper. My coaching philosophy is I'd like to say, and again, everybody's different. I actually took lessons from two other people while I was taking them from Cam, just because you can pick little things that work for you from this one person, the way they explain it or demonstrate it. So I'd like to say that my coaching philosophy is whatever level you're at, I just want to get you to the next level. I think there's a lot of coaches out there, and I may get feedback from this, is they'll take a 3.0 player and they teach them as if they're going to be a 5.0, and I go, you can't do that. You got to get them to 3.25 first, and then 3.5, and so on and so on. And steps,
Steps, Ken,
baby steps,
steps.
baby
Yep,
steps.
exactly. Yep.
I've had people, they come to our classes and they write everything down, and I'm going, okay, that's good that you write everything down, but please don't go out into your recreational play and try and put all 12 of the things that you just, because it's never going to work. Pick two. Start with your serve. Once you are comfortable with that one stroke, then let's work on our return, and just build the game that way, instead of going, well, I I love this comment, well, I watch the pros on TV, and I go,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
well, first of all, you're not 22. You
Yep.
guys, I'm pretty sure, do, because generally the demographics of our students are retirees, seniors. You get the odd maybe 25, but it's definitely above 50 in my mind. And I go, these kids that you're watching on TV these days, have reflexes like pumas. So I'm going to try and teach you how to have reflexes like a senior citizen, so that because um, you'll enjoy the game more by getting better in smaller increments than going, oh my God, I've watched this and I'm never going to get this. And they, and then they just get frustrated. I don't know if they would give up the game, because if you love pickleball, you're not giving it up.
I love all that. But, to your point, let me pick up on something you said because I mentioned this in a previous podcast, Ken, and I took some coaching a few years ago, and, this person is an excellent coach and an excellent player. And I take nothing away from him in that regard. But, he spent most of the time that we had together, kind of hitting me in the shoulder and hitting me in the forehead and a couple balls in the chest. And then, sort of spent the rest of the time telling me not what I was maybe doing right and things that I could build on, but pointing out all the things I was doing wrong. And I remember coming home to Fran, and to your point about quitting the game, I gave it some thought. I really did in that moment because I came home really feeling kind of, "Bleh," like, wow, I'm doing a lot. Like, I'm not doing anything right. I'm not going to figure this out. And so I think that relationship with a coach is critical. And I think that the importance of the coach understanding that for someone, especially coming into the game, of not pushing them too hard, encouraging the positive stuff that they are doing, and kind of sandwiching it together. I like that sandwiching coaching philosophy where you say, you know what, you're doing this really well. You might want to think a little bit about bending your knees a bit more. But boy, when, once you do that, the results are amazing. And I think, you've got to encourage, especially new players, to realize that, there is some hope here. And so I'm so thankful I stuck with the game. But that experience, and this is a great player. Don't get me wrong. He's a respected part of the pickleball community, great coach, great guy. But, he and I just didn't
Right.
connect in that particular session. And that's okay too. And so, the reason I want to go down that rabbit hole with you today is anyone listening that may have tried a coaching session that didn't go well, I would encourage them to try another one.
100%.
I'd hate to see somebody get to a point, Ken, where they just happen to not be maybe they weren't in the right frame of mind. Maybe the coach that day wasn't. There's a lot of things that come into that day, as I'm
Right.
sure you can echo. But please, please, if you're listening to the podcast and you've had a bad experience, don't give up on that, because there are, and here's one right here, great coaches that understand the importance of bringing people along at a pace that makes sense. So happy that you touched on that. So thank
No,
you. It's a
thank you
great
for the
point.
compliment
Thank you.
again. But yeah, no, again, if we're not having fun, um, uh, yeah, it's funny because you'll get into a group lesson, and of course, you've got different personalities, different levels of physical fitness, different ages, and we do have a curriculum that we kind of like the Bible on how, if you're coming for this lesson, we should be doing this. But I think a good coach, in my mind, and is one that can ad lib on the fly, going, you know what? I know you came here for this, and not saying it out loud, but you go, okay, they're not going to get this today unless we go backwards a little bit. So why don't we learn this? And it might be something as simple as me putting my paddle on the ground and tossing balls now. And they look at you and go, no, it's not you, it's me. I just want more consistency of my ball going to you. So you take not the blame, but you take the onus off of them not getting it, and just saying, hey, I'm not giving you the balls the way that I want to off of a paddle, so I'm going to do more control with a hand fed ball. So make you have to make them feel like they're succeeding, and as long as they walk away with, first of all, fun. That's my biggest word, and second of all, hey, maybe I didn't learn how to do cross court dinking today, but man, did I learn how to you know lift and push the ball over the net, so that at least 8 times out of 10 the ball's going over the net instead of 8 times out of 10 going into the net. Yeah, just little mini success stories within the actual session.
Yeah, and the great thing again, to draw us back to the game itself and the foundation of this game, Ken, that we all love so much, you really can plug in wherever you decide you want to plug in. You don't have to be a tournament player. You don't need to become an elite pickleball player to get the social benefits of what this game provides, the physicality, running around, getting some steps, getting the heart rate up. I mean, you're going to get that at almost any level, but to sit back at any club anywhere in Canada today, or for that matter, North America, you know, when the social programming's running, it really is something to see. You've got maybe, let's just pick a court, 12 courts running on a Tuesday morning with all these different players, different levels, maybe an intermediate game in the corner, a beginner game over here, and everybody's having fun or should be. And I love that about this game. But there is something to be said. And I would encourage anyone listening to the podcast, if you've just began with the game or you've been at it for a short period, take some coaching. And the reason I say that is when you get to that next level, whatever that is for you, there's nothing more thrilling in this game than a serve, a return, a nice third shot, a couple of little rallies, maybe a bit of a speed up. Then somebody accidentally does a reset. Maybe they don't even mean to, right? There's an accidental
Right.
reset all of a sudden, and people go, oh, wow, we're dinking again. When you get into and I remember mine almost like it was yesterday, because when we start, it's usually serve, return point, serve, loss of serve. Like the rallies don't go on for, two or three normally in a beginner level. But as you level up just a little bit, and boy, Ken, when you get into that first, 15, 18, 20 rally point, it's a whole different game. So I'm not talking, yeah, I'm not talking to you, the coach, because you know this. I'm talking to the person listening to this in their car, driving along, or sitting at home watching it on YouTube. I'm just take the coaching to try to get not so much so you get better or so you become that elite player, but boy, when you have that first game with 12, 15 rallies and somebody does an accidental reset, or you hit a drive that works, to win that point after several back and forths, and you mentioned that pro game that you were able to watch when you were down at the US Open. I got to watch some of the big names out in California a couple of years ago. And, I'm standing there saying to Francis, so this is not the game we're playing in Kingston. I'll tell you that much. But I'm not sure it's the game I ever want to play. I like the game I play today. And I'm able to get those rallies most of the time. We have a great time. So you've really hit the nail on the head for me today. So thanks for
Yeah.
going there with all that.
No, and again, just to expound on that little bit is yes, the game is changing mainly because the players are getting younger. The paddles are making the ball move faster, but there still is, you know, I'll watch what we affectionately call the bangers play, and accidentally they get into a dinking rally, and it's phenomenal to watch. And you know, um, you have the intermediate or the beginner players watching go, yes, that soft game is still alive. Um, and it's funny because there are a few students that I teach not at a real high level, but I look at them and I go, technically, you hit the ball just as good as I do, but you don't. You're in such a hurry to win. Like you want to win right off the serve. You know, like it's a strategic game. I like to say you're not playing checkers anymore. You're playing chess, right? And that's the biggest difference is the satisfaction of building a point instead of just whacking the ball. But again, there's nothing wrong with just whacking the ball if that's what you like to do. And if you get four people on the court that's all they like to do, there's again nothing wrong with that. But a lot of times people come to me and they just say, "I'm losing this, or I'm not succeeding at this," and I go, "I just want to change your mindset a little bit. I don't want to change I don't want to change your strokes. I don't want to change the way you hit the ball. I just want to change your decision making." And then I'll get a text or an email going, "I just played my recreational ball and it was so much fun, and I had success." So I go, great.
I love it. I love all that. Well, Ken, that's great stuff. We could talk all day. We could talk all weekend about that part. I mean, the game of pickleball, rally number 2 in the podcast is always the one that I'm most enthusiastic about because it's just such a great game for all the reasons that we've touched on and so many more that we haven't had time to touch on today. But thank you for all of that. Yeah, let's wrap up a little bit with what Tailored Pickleball does on the travel and vacation side, because it seems to me you've been on a few of these trips, and it seems to me like you may have shared a few photographs from some of these trips with me. And I have to say, you do travel with quite a colorful outfit in your suitcase here and there and everywhere. So tell me about pickleball vacations from your perspective. How much fun are these things? I've never done one. I know that Cam's got an arm of his organization
Yeah.
that does that, and
Well, first of all, they are a ton of fun. And, you know, depending on where the trips I've gone, I think I've done 3 out of the I'm not sure how many they've done, but it's basically focused on pickleball and teaching pickleball, as well as, we have in order so on a normal day, we have a 2-hour training session from 8:30 to 10:30. And then we have another 2-hour training session from 10:30 till 12:30. Then from then till 4 o'clock ish, and is you're on your own. You can continue to play pickleball in 40-degree heat, or you can go in the ocean, or you can go on little excursions. But each evening we have a theme night. So so the colorful costumes or what you're talking about. So one night we'll have, if it's not bright, it's not right. So just show up in the brightest colors you have. Then we'll have like a rock and roll or country and western theme. Then one night it will be just play uh, challenge the pros night, and it, in some cases pros in quotation mark, because I am one of those pros in quotation marks, but they just line up and they just have so much fun. There's um, a couple it's actually escaping my memory on the other theme nights, and then we end off the week with an in-house tournament, and we also watch all the participants all week, and we come up with some amazing awards at the end. Like, we had a gentleman once, I'm not going to name his name. I don't know if he wants to be embarrassed. So he ended up doing a face plant on the first trip. He literally flipped over the net, and he was a road rash. So anybody that kind of stumbles or whatever, we now give an award to that person in his honor.
Right, in Bob
Yes,
Smith's name, I get you. Okay, right, right. How cool.
we do a drill where you're telling your students you got to bring your paddle back to home, and of course we'll watch. And there's one guy that he won it last trip because his paddle's always down by his knees, and so we gave him the homeless award. So a lot of fun, and a lot of jibber jabber, a lot of chirping. But the trips are really well organized. What we do is we have a team. We have a couple of high level pros that play in the CNPL. They come down as the special guest instructors. Cam's there, and then depending upon how many applicants or participants, I should say, then they bring X amount of instructors as well. So we have that nice student to instructor ratio. But also, we have a couple that come down, and they're literally our social conveners. So that instead of saying, Ken, like, what's happening at what, you see that lovely lady over there, she can help you out. So we have a team that looks after everything, whether you're not happy with your room, that kind of stuff. So yeah, and we've got one couple, they've been on every trip so far, so they got an award, like, just, thanks for showing up. But yeah, no, it, it I compare it to, like, if you're a cyclist and you go on these cycling trips, if you're a wine enthusiast and you go on these wine trips, hey, you're a pickleball enthusiast, come with us and you're going to get your fill of pickleball, and you're going to learn something at the same time. It was funny because our second last trip, there was some people there that I would say they're high level players, and they kind of came with the attitude that I don't think we're going to learn anything. They walked away and said, I'm
Sure.
so glad that we came because we did learn
Right.
something. So,
Yeah.
anyway, they're a lot of fun. You meet a lot of nice people from all over the,
Sure. Yeah.
every walk of life.
Well, I love it, and I wonder today, Ken, talking about this, and I think about, the cruise line industry that has made pickleball a big part of their sort of offering as well to attract that clientele. And I think about, if Barney McCallum and Joel Pritchard and the rest of them that, this game was developed in 1965, to keep the kids
Exactly.
busy. It
Yep.
really was nothing more than that in that moment. And for that to evolve and for the game to evolve to where it is today, and we talk about the pro tours and we talk about the big money and the paddle technology and we talk about all of that together, and then you pile on top the vacations and the getaways and the friendships, and there's just no way that the founders of this great game could have ever envisioned it becoming what it is
Mhm.
today. And every element of what we've talked about today is part of that magic moment that I call in pickleball, when you pick up the paddle and the ball for the very first time and you step on a court and it changes your life. And this has been enlightening today, talking to you about all of this. And
It's been fun, Mike.
yeah, I love your passion. And, again, at the risk of embarrassing you, I'm going to put up some photos that you've shared. And I will, to be fair, put up one of me that I'm not necessarily sure should ever be consumed by the public, but I'll throw that one up too. Listen, we love this game, you and I, and we get along great. We love the game. And, we need more of you out there, Ken. Again,
You are embarrassing me, but I'll take the accolades.
you're good for the game, and your approach to it, and the way that you set things up, and the important role that fun continues to play in this game, I think is something that we just never want to lose. So good on you for doing all that you're doing to help move the game along. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Well, listen, this has been great. We'll chat soon, and enjoy your long
Yep.
Easter weekend.
Okay.
Thanks for being
Cheers
here.
and keep your paddle up.